most straightforward way to drag images into PhotoFusion is to open the images hover, mouse down, and drag them into the canvas where they will show up. You can also use Windows if you prefer. You can just bring up a Windows folder and drag and drop into PhotoFusion. There's no import step. The images will simply show up. Once you've got a couple of images in the canvas, you'll see the frame ID allows you to drag from one frame into the other like this. And if you just drag and drop, the images will swap. If, on the other hand, you had clicked on the frame ID, then you'll see that it gets picked up, and I'm not holding the mouse button down now. If I right-click on this image, it gets picked up. And you'll see that I now have two images attached to the cursor. This is called a dropper, and it allows you to see a bunch of images which are not yet in the canvas but are waiting to go. So to illustrate that, I'll go back to Windows, and I'll select these three images, and I'll drag them from Windows into PhotoFusion. And you'll see that they're attached to the cursor. They move around with it, and if I roll the mouse wheel, if you don't have a mouse wheel, by the way, you can use the arrow keys. Just tap left and right arrow, as I'm doing now, and you'll swap. That allows you to choose which image you want to place here, which image you want to place here, and then if you want, you can click outside the canvas to drop a single large image everywhere, and you'll see that I've picked up the paper texture that I was working on. By the way, if you use the up and down arrow keys, you can adjust the size of what's going to get dropped next. So if I wanted to have a small paper texture here for some reason, I could do it. The way that I put the dropper away, having picked up a bunch of images like this, the way that I got rid of the dropper for a moment was to tap the escape key. And if I want to bring it back, the simplest way to do that is to hit the D for dropper key. It seems like I've scaled images down, so I'll just make it larger and say that I want to position this here. And I'll put this one inside this existing frame, and I'll delete this frame that I don't need. Now when you drop an image, PhotoFusion makes a decision on how big to make it. It says that it's going to make it this big. Well, how did PhotoFusion choose to go from here to here with that just dropped image? That's something that you can configure by clicking here or opening the Canvas Settings dialog. You'll see an option Size Dropped Images At, and I'm using 40% of the canvas width. That's the default. You can also choose to work in DPI, and that matters to some people who think of an image which is 3000 pixels wide as being a 10-inch image. Personally, I find the percentage much more intuitive, but let's leave it at 300 DPI and show what happens. If I go back and take that same image again and I drop it on the canvas, you'll see now that it's much larger than it was the last time we dropped it. This is 40% of the canvas width. This is 300 DPI.